But because meat has also been deemed yet something else that is destroying the planet, the woke narcissists of compassion are already insisting that people eat less of it. Plants and bugs for you and your children, peasants.
So many of you have asked me to review this video, and I actually think Jordan Peterson has finally gone off the deep end. Roll the titles.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. As always, just a quick reminder that I'm now offering the SIBO organic acid stool test and consult via my website. So if you have any health or digestive problems, then consider taking these tests, as they will provide a lot of very detailed information upon which you can start making informed decisions and then start getting your health back on track. And on that bombshell, to the video.
In such circumstances, in the face of such mandatory privations and manipulations, it's obvious that the last thing our tyrannical, idiot, panicked, virtue-signaling governments should be doing is directing their demented attention toward regulating what people serve at their tables.
The last time I checked, you could walk into a supermarket and buy whatever you want. The other thing that needs to be said is that Jordan is out of his lane here talking about nutritional guidelines with such authority. I'm pretty sure he's a psychologist and not a nutritionist, dietitian or food scientist. But again, it's just another situation where someone who craves so much attention will say anything to get airtime.
But because meat has also been deemed yet something else that is destroying the planet, the woke narcissists of compassion are already insisting that people eat less of it. Plants and bugs for you and your children, peasants.
I mean, what do you even say to something like this? It's funny, isn't it? Because I remember when he first went on to Joe Rogan and said this.
You're on this carnivore diet now.
Okay, so I want to preface that with something. I am not a dietary expert, so I'm now speaking as an uninformed citizen.
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it? In just a couple of years, his ego has grown to such an extent that he now knows better than everyone. Just because he and a very small minority of people who have issues with fruits and vegetables because of underlying issues, that must mean that all fruits and vegetables are bad. And if eating fruits and vegetables makes me a peasant, then I'm more than happy with that title.
And the sooner you get accustomed to it, or else, the better. Let's turn our attention to the claim that animal husbandry and the meat it produces cheaply enough for everyone to afford is unsustainable. For a moment, because we haven't yet dispensed with enough moralizing and authoritarian stupidity. Remember what happened the last time that government agencies applied their tender mercy to determining what the people they serve should consume? We were offered the much vaunted food pyramid, telling us to eat 6 to 11 servings of grains and carbohydrates a day, with protein and fat at the pinnacle.
You know who this guy reminds me of?
This simulation is not confined to this level that we call the human world.
Or maybe next he will be asking for donations so he can set up a freedom platform because he is apparently being persecuted.
Something to be indulged in with comparative rarity, if indeed necessary at all. That all turned out to be wrong, and not just a little wrong, but so wrong that it might as well have been not just wrong, but a veritable anti-truth. Something as wrong as it could possibly get.
Or could it be that it was true and that fruits and vegetables are actually good for humans, and the problem is in fact that people are eating processed refined sugars and meats and not actually eating much in the way of whole foods? But again, Jordan knows best as a newly qualified, self-proclaimed nutrition expert.
The food pyramid was brought into being not least by the US Department of Agriculture. That is, by marketers, not scientists or nutritionists, with no shortage whatsoever of lobby efforts by those whose products ended up being promoted.
I don't deny for 1 minute that there is an issue in most countries where food manufacturing companies have sway and influence within governments. But to make the assumption that the whole system is corrupt and that the food pyramid is a marketing scheme with no science to support it is far-fetched for even Jordan Peterson.
The dietary recommendation to prioritize carbohydrates produced a veritable epidemic of obesity and diabetes, resulting in what has been deemed by reliable researchers as one of the worst public health disasters of all time.
People are eating processed refined carbohydrates and processed refined meats, and these are the problem. Show me any evidence, Jordan, that there are populations of people who eat whole form fruits and vegetables and they are battling with obesity,
dooming almost the entire Western population to a lifetime of catastrophic chronic health problems. 42% of Americans are obese. Another almost equally large percentage are overweight. At least a third are in the early or later stages of diabetes, which is an exceptionally serious disease.
Okay, but instead of making such bogus claims, show the evidence that these people's diets are in the form of whole foods, fruits and vegetables.
$1.7 trillion is spent annually on chronic illness in the US. And the rise in such illness and cost is directly associated with the beginning of the God-forsaken top-down dietary guidelines that set us all on a carbohydrate-heavy dietary pathway.
And this guy is supposedly a science guy. Remember when he said this?
I am not a dietary expert, so I'm now speaking as an uninformed citizen.
There have been, in addition, dozens of studies debunking the claim that red meat causes disease. The PURE study, P-U-R-E, published in the journal Lancet in 2017, analyzing 140,000 individuals from 18 countries, revealed that, quote, higher carbohydrate intake, not meat and fat, note, was associated with an increased risk of total mortality, and that, quote, higher saturated fat intake was associated with lower risk of stroke.
Again, this just shows you how uneducated this guy is where nutrition is concerned. You shouldn't isolate any study and then make assertions based on that single study. You have to look at the totality of evidence across many years. You also have to rely on solid science and not epidemiological studies, the type which Jordan bashes when they are used in arguments against higher intakes of meat being linked to health consequences. Also, given that the diet from the participants in the study were from low-income countries mainly consisting of highly refined carbohydrates, it is also possible that a diet that was low in fat was a proxy for poverty and therefore had its own complications. Therefore, Jordan, if you take this type of study and add 2 + 2 and get 35, well, you are an idiot.
Lower. That is exactly the opposite of what we have been told by the beneficial centralizing agents who task themselves with determining what we, as sovereign and responsible individuals, should put in our mouths. So the health benefits of a pure vegetarian and vegan diet are dubious at best.
Look, I get it, Jordan. If I couldn't eat all of those amazing healthy fruits and vegetables and I had to live on steak and salt, I would be cranky like you too. But don't take it out on everyone else just because you are hangry.
But what of the argument that animal husbandry is killing the planet? Well, the American Environmental Protection Agency estimates that all farming produces only 11% of greenhouse gases in the US. Transportation produces 27%. Livestock accounts for 3%. And plant-based agriculture? 5%.
There we go again with that cherry picking of information. All of the science out there, and he is choosing to ignore it because he is hangry.
According to the National Academy of Sciences, if we eradicated all animal-based agriculture, we'd reduce greenhouse gases by a mere 2.6%. And it is no simple matter, by the way, and perhaps impossible, to manage a diet that is sustainable in the medium to long term by merely dining on plants. Chew on that.
So you are witnessing David Icke 2.0 there, and in the next video I will be reviewing Jordan Peterson's reptilian claims. Anyhow, that's the end of today's video, and if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to check out this one up here because I'm sure you'll find it equally interesting. And the only other thing that's left for me to say is to remember to look after your body because it's the only place you have to live. And I'll see you next time.